It's kind of like the old saying, like you need to meditate for 30 minutes a day. And if you don't have time for that, you need to meditate for an hour a day. Like if you don't have time for it, you really need it.
Welcome to the Base Coat Brainiac podcast. My name is Austin Hauser. I'm Chief Brainiac over here at Base Coat Marketing. If you own a painting business and you're listening in, you are in the right place. Now today I have a special guest, Calvin Correli. He is a tech entrepreneur who said kind of peace out to the whole rat race game and helps people detach from that mindset of I need to invest more time into my business. That's the only way that you're going to get stuff out of it, right? I know what you're thinking. First of all, that sounds a bit abstract. And second of all, what can a tech guy do for me? Well, if you're an entrepreneur, this is going to be a powerful conversation that's going to resonate with all of you. Calvin has some pretty relatable takes on, how we're all killing ourselves by chasing money that we don't have time to spend. So Calvin, I hope I did you justice with that intro, and I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to be here today, man.
That's great. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here and talk to you. And yeah, it's like we're most entrepreneurs are kind of, we're trying to get somewhere, but we like aren't quite getting there. if you know what I mean, like, I just want my business to be at this place, like revenue wise, or like the time or whatever. And it's like, we're never quite getting there. There's always something else. And that's what I'd like to kind of address and, do differently.
Let's do it. So first, why don't you give everybody a brief background? Like, who's Calvin? Where'd you get started? How'd you get here today?
Born and raised in Denmark, and I live in California now, and was into coding from a very young age. My parents were programmers, and they taught me how to code. So I've been a software engineer my entire life. And as a kid, I was kind of very attuned, if you will, like spiritually, like had this sensibility. But then in my teenage years, I pushed that aside. I like unconsciously decided that was not useful, that was not worthy, that was not right, that was not, good. And so just went all in on kind of left brain way of operating and, all in on the programming until I reached a point where I was like really struggling. I felt like I was failing as a husband, as a father, as a son, as a human being, as a man. Like I wasn't, what's my purpose? Where am I going in life? Where is this going? I'm not getting anywhere. My body was starting to be more and more in pain from sitting at the keyboard, typing all the time. And I was like in this mindset of like, if I just write more code, like everything's going to be good. And it didn't work. And at that time I was terrified of going into any kind of like mindset stuff or coaching or any kind of self-help or any of that stuff. I was terrified of it because if I admitted that I needed something like that, it meant that I was already broken and I already failed and I might as well go kill myself or something. It was so not allowed in my mindset. But then reached a point where I couldn't anymore, and that's where I got into the personal development stuff. Tony Robbins and like a bunch of other people, and very quickly got into like a spiritual journey around it. I feel like every personal development growth ends in like a spiritual journey of some sort, and realized, oh, this was the missing piece. And then as I got into that, I started coaching other entrepreneurs on this because I realized this is really the crux of what we do as entrepreneurs. Like we're trying to create something in the world that's never existed before, and that's ultimately a spiritual journey. And so I realized that's what's at the core of what we as entrepreneurs are struggling with and what we're trying to do. Started coaching entrepreneurs, needed software for that. And so I built the software for coaching businesses, which is what Simplero is. And so now I do both of those things. I build the software and I do the coaching, and sort of everything in my life is around like creating stuff. Like I think at the core of it, like that's what makes us human, is that we're always expressing ourselves through our creations. Like your life is your ultimate expression. Your business is an expression of who you are. And that's how it should be.
So good. So I want to back up a little bit. You said that you got to a point where you couldn't take it anymore. That, writing that next line of code wasn't going to get you to that place that you wanted to be at. What was that breaking point like? Because I want to just try to touch on this point is I think every entrepreneur has a breaking point. We all have a different pain threshold. Some people can push through more of that shit than others. But I think we all have a point where we just look at ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves the question, like, is this worth it? Are we on the right path? Like, how much longer do we have to run?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think for me, it was around turning 30, because I had this idea in my head that I needed to reach like billionaire level success by 30 or I shouldn't be here. Like that was somehow ingrained in my head. Like it had to be so over the top, undeniable. So imagine like what must someone like that feel about themselves, right? I am so unworthy to even exist that I have to prove myself so over the top to justify my right to be here. Like it's crazy when you think about it. But of course, that's not what we do, right? We don't think about it. It's just the water that we swim in is like, oh, that's just how it is. And so I was like pressuring myself so much. And I was just, I would have these sleepless nights. I would feel like super depressed. And I was terrified of sharing it with anybody, because if anybody knew that I was struggling like this, they would obviously reject me. But it was also like I might have just as well throw in the towel at that point, like if I had to admit it to anyone. So I really walked with it alone for a long time, and just I felt like such a failure, such a loser, such a like yeah, what the hell am I doing? And my mom had a friend who was a former surgeon. He was a surgeon that was focused on mastectomies. And he had realized that all of these women that he operated on, where he, cut off their breasts, right? As one does when one does mastectomy, he realized they all had the same psychological patterns, which were around resenting their own femininity and resenting also the masculine. And he was like, well, if there's like a psychological pattern underlying all of this, what if I, instead of doing the surgery, got into psychology and was able to help people before it turns into breast cancer? That was his insight. So he got into psychology. I'd met him through my mom, because it was one of my mom's friends. And so he was the one that I reached out to at my lowest point. And I was like terrified. I got his phone number, called him, and then was like, hey, I think I'd like to talk to a psychologist. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'll happily recommend someone. I think this is a great idea. And I was like shaking. I was like so nervous about this. And so in secret, I went to see a psychologist, and that's kind of what got me going. And then I realized, oh shit, like this whole story in my head is not true. Like this whole notion that I'm so broken is not true. This whole unworthiness thing is not true. And that like gradually got into from there to coaching and to other kind of modalities and techniques and all that stuff. But that opened the whole can of worms for me. In the beginning, I was terrified of going into the quote unquote spiritual side of things. I was just like, well, it's just like beliefs, very still like the left brainy thing. But then I realized, no, there is you can't not go there once you start working on this. And I can explain why too. But that was a low point for me. That was what became the turning point. And then in the years since, this was in the early 2000s. So in the 20 odd years since then, I've done a truck ton of work, and I've seen how most of the personal development work that people do actually keeps them stuck. It doesn't actually move them forward. I delineate personal development 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. And it's like, the way most people do it, they'll make some incremental progress, but it's not like big shifts. And we can dive into that as well.
I definitely want to dive into that. But before we do, you bring up the fear, right? And I think you nailed it. Like we all tell ourselves a story, and that story can be based in reality. Most of the times it's not, right? It's based in the fear of something else that really success lies on the other side of that fear. But for you, why do you, maybe personally, or the other entrepreneurs that you speak to, why do you feel like they're afraid to invest into themselves or to elevate themselves to that next level?
Because the reason people get scared of investing in themselves or elevating themselves in that way is because the ego doesn't want to lose its job. right? Like that part of us that lies to ourselves, that tells that story, realizes that like if it gets busted, what the fuck is it gonna do now? Pardon my
Yeah,
French
no,
here.
you're good. Yeah.
Like what else is that? Like we know that we know that we're lying to ourselves on a deeper level, and we don't really like to be busted. Most people, I feel like we go to school, and in school we felt like you felt super incompetent, right? Because you didn't know math, you didn't know history, you didn't know whatever it was. And you're like, oh my God, that's such an awful feeling. I never want to feel that way again. And then you grow up and you become an adult and you're like, I'm never doing anything where I feel incompetent again or wrong or something. And entrepreneurs don't have this. Most people have this really bad, which is why people just kind of get stuck at that level. Entrepreneurs are wired differently, right? We're willing to take some on the chin. We're willing to like to fail, to try and fail, but there's still that level of we don't really like. I think once you start really celebrating every time you find out that you were wrong about something, that's a major shift, right? If you're still afraid of being wrong, then you can't grow, because every time you grow, it's like you're realizing something I used to believe is false. Now I believe this instead. So every time that happens, you're like, there's this like stomach feeling for me. It's like, oh, I was wrong about that. Like, oh, that was wrong. Like there's a little bit of an uncomfortableness. The more you can be comfortable with that and actually celebrate, oh shit, I just realized I was completely wrong about this. The more you get free to actually shift.
That's funny. I was talking to my youngest the other day. He's 7 years old, and I was talking to him about taking him out skiing or snowboarding for the first time this winter. And he's like, Dad, I don't want to do that because I'm afraid to fall. Like, I'm afraid I'm
Mhm.
not going to be good. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
son, guess what? Like, if you want to do anything in life, you're gonna suck at first, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that fear, to your point, I think just becomes more ingrained in us as we get older, and especially as entrepreneurs, where we look at the success as the only option. Like for us, there's the path of failure is we might as well like die, right? Like that is jarring for the average entrepreneur. But in reality, failure is the way. Like there is no other path other than failure. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. Um, so let's,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
think redefining, like really, so this was a big thing for me, was one of the core mind bugs that ran me was this idea that I did something wrong or I did it wrong.
Mm,
I, and I think realizing, you use the word failure, but realizing that there is no such thing as failure or wrong. Like none of what we did, what you have done, your son is doing, what I've done, none of it is wrong. Wrong is always a judgment in the mind that comes in the hindsight. Like in the moment, you're just doing your best. You're just doing whatever you're doing. And what happens, happens. But then we look at it and be like, oh, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Right? Well, who cares? It's irrelevant, right? Because it happened. And what happened, happened. And it happened that way. And you couldn't have done anything different. Because you didn't. If you could have, you would have. Like you didn't. So it's meaningless. So it's instead of like it's a failure, it's just a thing, right? It's like we get the judgment out of it, and now we can just deal with the logistics of it, the physics of it. Like here's the situation. Like the other day, we're staying at this house here while we're moving into our like real house in a couple of weeks. And we're temporarily staying here, and there's this like parking out here is really gnarly. Like the garage is like too big of a steep, so we had to park in the garage, and then we parked in the front, but then like try to fit two cars there, and like let's just do it. So I was trying to get my wife's car out while mine was parked in there, and I scraped the side of the car. It's going to cost me like $5,000 and like all the hassle of having to go through that. That wasn't wrong. It's just what happened. It's just I did what I did. I scratched the side of the car, and now I have to like either live with it or pay and go through the cost and hassle of getting it fixed. But it wasn't wrong, right? We don't need the whole judgment of it,
the
whatever it was.
language you use is so important. I think that goes back to the storytelling aspect of our brains are always looking for what's wrong in life, and
Mhm.
it's super easy just to point that out, right? But if you start looking for the things that are going right, well, guess what? Everything starts to look pretty shiny and good.
Yeah.
Um, I want to get into the stages or the versions of self-improvement. You mentioned there's like 3 different versions of
Yeah.
that. Let's get in the weeds with that. That to me sounds really interesting.
Cool. So personal development 1.0 is like the motivation, the rah-rah thing, right? Like Tony Robbins does that great. There's nothing wrong with it. It's awesome. But it's like you get, yeah, I got this. I can do this. Like, oh, you really get into it and you can hype yourself up and and it's powerful. It's really helpful. The thing is, it doesn't last, right?
Mhm.
So it'll last like maybe a couple hours, maybe a couple weeks or something, but then you're kind of back to your baseline. It's a great tool. It's great. We want to use that tool, but it is not lasting. 2.0 is now we get into like mindset, limiting beliefs, healing work, trauma work, emotional intelligence, like depending on how woo-woo you go, like crystals and auras, like whatever, like all that work where we're like working on ourselves. The problem with that, that's great. And now we're starting to make some permanent change, some progress. It tends to be like a lot of working on it. And it tends to come from an energy of something's wrong. And so I need to fix it. Something's wrong with me. Like I'm wounded. I'm hurt. I need healing. I've traumas, whatever. Something's wrong with me or something's wrong with my circumstances. So now I need to work on it to fix it. But the problem is that the more you do, the more you're actually reinforcing the underlying story that there's something wrong, right? So you'll make some incremental progress, but it's not that shift. So the personal development 3.0 is where you get to the core of the operating system that's running you, and you recognize the lie there, which makes a dramatic shift. And I'll explain in more detail and give examples of how that works. So, so think of it this way: like when we're trying to create a result in our lives, like growing the business, getting more clients, making more money, like or health, or like building muscle or getting leaner or whatever it is. The results are downstream from the actions, right? You take consistent action, you eat well, you lift weights, you like send out, you follow up with leads, you run ads, whatever. You do the things, you get the results. Great. Upstream of your actions are your thoughts and your feelings. Right? So we're like, I should go to the gym and lift, but I don't feel like it today, or I deserve a day off. You tell yourself a story, like thoughts and feelings. So the thoughts and the feelings are really what impacts your actions, which then impacts your results. So the question is, where do the thoughts and the feelings come from? Right? So limiting beliefs lives at the level of thoughts and feelings, but they're shaped in the container of your identity, who you see yourself as being. And who we see ourselves as being is a limited person in some way. It's a limited being in some way. Like we see ourselves as an individual being, right? Like I am me and you are you, and we're separate beings. So if you're a separate being, well, you got to be worried about your survival. That's just how that works. If you see yourself as separate from everything, you're going to be like looking for how to survive. And then there are some very core lenses that we look at life through that everybody has, kind of all of them, but they're different strengths for, like, they're ranked differently, if you will, for different people. So I mentioned one of the big ones for me was I did something wrong. And so it's not a thought that says I did something wrong. It's how I look at life. So I'm not thinking, oh shit, I did something wrong. I might do that occasionally, but it's just how I see the world is as someone who did something wrong. And so now my brain is going to start pattern matching and finding examples and finding evidence. And if there's not enough evidence to go around, it's going to cause me to self-sabotage and do something stupid that I can then say that I did something wrong, right? Because that's just what it does. It's great. Another big one for people, for a lot of entrepreneurs, is I'm not safe. And so you just look at life as like, I'm not safe. And if only I had more money, then I would be safe. Or maybe it's like, if only I had the perfect partner, I would feel safe. Or it's like you're looking for it somewhere.
Would you consider that a scarcity mindset?
Yeah, well, that's another. It's related. It's related, but the scarcity one, that's another one where it's like there's not enough, or I don't have enough, right? So it's like it's these core ways that we relate to life that becomes the pattern, the lens that we look at life through, and we don't even realize that we're doing it because it's just been how we also always saw life. And so the problem with personal development 2.0 is that it's the limited version of yourself, the version who doesn't feel safe, the version who doesn't feel, who feels that life is scarce, or there's this, it's in a world of scarcity, who doesn't feel, who feels it did something wrong. It's that version of us who's trying to work on ourselves to be better, right? But it's coming from the energy of what's already wrong, and so it energetically it keeps reinforcing that there is something wrong. Like, so people who are on the healing path, the healing journey, for like spiritual journey for like 10 years, 20 years, because they're constantly coming at it from an energy of like, I'm broken, therefore I need healing to fix this thing. But each time I do it, I'm just reinforcing that I'm broken, right? And
So how do
so
you get to that next level, that 3.0? How do you stop focusing on fixing what's wrong and then focusing on where you want to be?
exactly. So hang on, I'm gonna close the door here. We've got
Okay.
some noise going on downstairs. Um, there we go. So this is what's so beautiful about it, because it's very simple. So what I do is I listen to people. I just have people share like what is my struggle, what are they going through, what is their challenge right now, and as they speak, I listen for what must they believe about themselves, who must they believe themselves to be in order to see the world this way, right? So like um like it's all up to me, or like I'm not safe, but like I'm not worthy, I'm not enough as I am, right? It's these very simple, very basic lies. And then I just point them out to people. I'm like, what I'm hearing is that like you're coming from the energy of, or the mind bug of like, I'm not safe. And then I'll ask people like, when did you first feel that way, or what comes up from childhood like that kind of gave you this idea that you're not safe, or you're not worthy, or you don't belong, or you're not wanted, or whatever it is. And like they'll tell me some story, and we look at it and realize, oh, that was their interpretation. And then once you get that conscious awareness on it, you're free to now start choosing differently. And that it's never going to have the same hold over you as it did, because now you actually see it. And so it's looking at not the thoughts and beliefs, but what is the underlying identity that shapes this way of looking at life. I'll give you an example. One of my clients is this lady who's built a phenomenal business teaching thousands of people how to paint. Great membership, tons of members, been doing it for like 9 years and doing amazing. And yet every day she would show up like scared, like really exhausted, because she was constantly worried that her members were gonna reject her, that it was not safe to be her, and then they would leave. Like, so and when she was talking, I heard that energy. Like, where did you learn that growing up, that it wasn't safe to be you? And then that she'd done something wrong. Like, she was afraid of doing something wrong that would make them leave. Where did you learn that? Well, turns out when she was a teenager, there's a group of girls that they hung out in a clique. There were like 15 girls. And one day they just stopped hanging out with her. They didn't want to talk to her. And they never told her why or what happened. But she made it that she had done something wrong, and that's why they all rejected her. And it was painful as all heck. And now she made it her mission to like try to figure out what she did wrong and never ever do anything wrong again, so that people would leave her. Right? And you can see how that's such an exhausting way to live. Exhausting. And I could, like, 2.0 would be like, let's go over and feel the feelings and heal the wound and all that stuff. Or it would be like, well, here's like, how to win friends and influence people, right? Dale Carnegie, like how can you be in a way that people don't reject you? all of that is coming from the small part of us that's already in that mental prison. What I help her see is like that happened, and like, yes, it was painful and we can feel the feelings. That's great. But it happened, but her interpretation of it, the meaning she associated with it, was that she had lost something, right, that she wanted, the belonging to this group, and that it was something that she did. That's not true. It's not an absolute truth. Right? So obviously, if like these 15 girls would just leave her like that, they're not people that you want to be friends with. You know what I'm saying? Like, so she didn't lose anything. She was just, these people revealed who they were, and she doesn't need them or anyone else to like her to be safe, like, you know, to be okay. And this idea that she did something wrong, like, she couldn't have, because she just did what she did, and what happened, and like, maybe it's not bad. But you can see if this is how she's been living for 30 years, that's exhausting, and it was starting to show up in her health. Because like, of course it will, because it's just a stressful way to live your life. And even though she's doing phenomenal in her business, you know, it's way taxing on your system. And so now she's been in my program for a couple of months, and so she just went through and had a launch, and she crushed it. And she, for the first time ever, she sold an annual membership option, and most people took that. And so now she knows that her income is safe for the next year. And she's just, through the work that we've done and all of this, like, in a completely different place. And just today, just had the call with her this morning with the group, and just showing up so calm. She's like, I'm just going, like, nothing I need to do for the rest of the year. I'll just like chill, really take some time for myself, enjoy it. Like, revenue's up, no stress, calm nervous system. And last week she was like, when I look back at that thing that happened there, I'm really grateful it happened, because it made me who I am today, right? So that's the shift. And that's what we do. That's what personal development 3.0 is all about. It's like, really, it's like the programming logic side of my brain too loves it, because it's really like, when you're fixing a bug in software, you need to really figure out what's the bug, right? Yeah. You can't just do random shit. You have to know, like, what's the actual root of this. And so I love like that pinpointing to like, what's the root. And when people come into my coaching program, like on the first call, it's my mission, and so far 100% success rate, that on the first call we pinpoint like, what is the biggest mind bug. And from that moment on, everything's shifting. And it's, again, time and again, like, people have been working on this for like decades and years, and we're not uncovering anything new. We're just seeing it through new eyes in a way that just shifts everything.
Do you think ego, I heard you mention that a couple of times, do you think ego plays a more important role in the mind of an entrepreneur than the average person? And maybe the second part of that question is like, how much of the challenges that the typical entrepreneur goes through is related to an egotistical mindset?
So I think literally every single problem that anybody has is because of an ego being in charge.
Yeah.
Because like, we think that we're this separate being in a physical body and a meat suit, and I'm over here and you're over there, and we're separate from everything, and like, we gotta like survive, and there's scarce resources, and that's the world that most of us occupy, right? That limited world, like, we were born and then we'll die, and I'm this age and I'm this weight and all that stuff. That's not who you are. That's not actually who you are. Who you are is pure awareness, is consciousness, is spirit. That's who you are, right? Like, I have a body, therefore I'm not my body. I have a name, therefore I'm not my name. I have opinions, therefore I'm not my opinions. I have, thoughts, therefore I'm not my thoughts. So who am I? Well, I'm just the awareness that observes everything. That's who I am. And that's really the upgrade that I want to encourage people to take, is to recognize that I'm none of those things, right? I am just pure spirit. And at the level of pure spirit, pure awareness, how many problems do I have? Like, none.
Yeah.
None. There can't be any. So therefore, anytime I feel like there's a problem, yes, it's ego, pure, like every single time. Second, it's pointing me to where I'm still stuck in some lie. about who I am and the nature of reality. Right. So we're moving into this house, and it's like way more pricey than we were planning on spending for a house, and we're renting because we're still getting to figure out the area and all that stuff. So last week, I wired $150,000 for security deposit and rent and whatnot for this house. And like, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to pay in rent for some people. Then there's like, apparently Jeff Bezos a couple of years ago rented a house down here for like 600 grand a month. So, it's all relative, right?
Right,
Like
right.
it's a lot, it's a little, I don't know. It felt like a lot. It felt expansive for us. And when I discussed it with my wife, we were like, are we going to do this? Are we like, do we take this step, like a big leap, right? And she was like, her biggest fear was that we would move in there and then I would be stressed out as all hell over having to pay rent on this place, and I wouldn't sleep at night, and I would be stressed, and we wouldn't have connection and love and intimacy and have a good relationship. And I was like, well, if that's your fear, like, fear not, because like, sure, I might get stressed, but it's just a mind bug, right? If I get stressed and have sleepless nights, yeah, that might happen, sure. But then we'll just figure out what's the lie that I'm believing, because every time they're stressed, there's a lie that we're believing. What is it? Let's get to the root of it. So like, if that's your fear, let's fucking go. Let's do it.
Let's go. So
Yeah.
what do you tell the entrepreneur that feels like they don't even have enough time to work on themselves? I went through a growth period in my entrepreneurial journey where I was working, those 120 hour weeks. I think we've all been there as an entrepreneur. And you start to degrade your mind, your body, your relationships. And I met one of my advisors, who's now a very good friend of mine today, who just had me flip it all on its head. It was like, hey, no, you need to focus on your mind, your body, and your relationships first. Your business will thrive after. But it can be really difficult to see that when you're the one putting out all the fires and you feel like you don't have competent people on your team. Like, what do you say to that entrepreneur that feels like, this is all sounds great, I would love to focus on myself, but I don't even know where to start?
Yeah, it's such a great question and super common, right? It's kind of like the old saying, like, you need to meditate for 30 minutes a day, and if you don't have time for that, you need to meditate for an hour a day, right? Like if you don't have time for it, you really need it. And it's a great example of the loop that we get caught into. I was talking to one of my clients today as well, where we were talking about like, what's life like now and what did it used to be like and what did you do, as like, it was like a messaging exercise, but it's also a good grounding and like, we kind of forget what we've achieved, all of us, right? Like now it's just normal, and then like there's the next thing, but we forget to recognize, holy crap, it used to feel this way and now I'm actually here. And one of the realizations, so one of them was talking about how she used to be really bad at saying no to people. Like, because like, oh, if I say yes, I'm going to feel like crap because I'm overriding my boundaries. But if I say no, I feel like crap because I'm like a bad person by saying no, I'm selfish, whatever. And now she's like, she says yes or no, and like people can have whatever reactions and she's calm. And the reason that the core to how she was able to make this change was focusing on calming her nervous system. And this is my point here, is that when you're all stressed up like that and you're working 120 hours a week and you feel like you don't have time for it, it's because you're all up in your head and your nervous system is all agitated. From that place, you can't make any good decisions. We have to get into a calm state first, and then we can have access to other parts of ourselves, to a deeper intelligence, to much smarter, sounder decisions. And so it literally is like, force yourself to stop. Like, look, if your wife had to go into intensive care surgery or whatever, or your parents were dying or your kids were sick, you would find the effing time.
Yep.
You would find the time. It's an emergency at that level for you to take the time to do this now. Like, take a freaking break and let things, like, let whatever fires burn and let things fall as they may, and just be like, hey, I need to pull the plug here. Like, whatever you got to do to find enough time, but really dedicate time to this. You have to just like when you're really stressed out and you don't have time to go to the gym, you need to go to the gym. Just, you have to. And it's like with me and the programming back then, right? I was like, well, if I just code faster and write more code faster, like I'd constantly be on the laptop. We would sit and watch a TV show and I'd be on the laptop coding something. Like I just completely stressed out. If that worked, it would have already worked, but it doesn't work. Right? So you just got to stop.
Working harder does not make you more successful, right?
It really does.
Yeah,
And it's also, what is success, right? What is success? That's another huge trap. What the hell is that?
let's go down that rabbit hole, because to your point, I think a lot of us compare ourselves to others, and especially in the day and age of social media with all the fake influencers and where everybody's posting the shiny, fun parts about their life, you don't see everything behind the scenes. Especially as an entrepreneur, where we're in this hustle culture of like, you need to hit this goal by this age, or you are a loser, because I see these 20-year-olds doing it, and it wasn't always that way, right?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lies that we all suffer from, and that I think entrepreneurs probably more than others, is this idea that there's somewhere to get to. Like, this isn't it. Yeah. No, this isn't it. But once I hit this milestone, once I make this money, once I solve this problem, once I make this, then I'll be there. Like, no, this is fucking it. This moment right here is it. There's nothing better ever that's coming to you. Like, it's not out in the future, because I don't know about you, but I've never been to the future. I don't know anyone who has. It's right now. There's nowhere to get to. Once you really get that, you might feel really deflated, really flat. Because most of us are operating from, this sucks, but if only I get the right strategies and write the tools and watch the right podcasts and get the right insights, then I'll have the strategies to get somewhere and then I'll feel good. But this fucking sucks. And then you're like, oh, like you solve that and it still sucks. And then you solve the next thing, it still sucks. And it never goes anywhere until you realize, oh, this right here, with all of it, including the pain and the things I don't like and whatever, this is it. Really just be here and appreciate it and feel that pain. Like, when we're trying to achieve something in order to get away from something we don't want, because like I feel unworthy, I feel unsuccessful, I feel unwanted, I feel like I don't belong, I feel like I need to prove myself, right? Like, whatever it is, I'm not good enough in some way, I'm not safe. We're trying to get away from that, but we're still operating. It's like we have this anchor where we're like, oh, I'm like, it's keeping you anchored, stuck with the thing that you don't want, because that's the energy you're operating from. We have to operate from like, I'm already there. I'm here. Like, celebrating the moment. We all are so busy resisting the present moment, which is the only moment that exists, and the only moment that we have any power in.
I listen to this short clip a couple times a week, and it's just kind of resets the priorities in your life. It basically starts out as hearing an 80-year-old man talk about how much he wishes he could just go back and be in his 35-year-old body, and like
Right.
having the chaos of kids in the house. And
Yeah.
it's like you always look to the future as it's going to be better eventually. And look, as an entrepreneur, I remember the day that I said, hey, the first time I hit $1 million, or we have a number of team members or whatever that is, like, life's going to be good. And you hit that goal, you celebrate it, and then you blow right past it and you're on to the next thing. You keep moving that goalpost, right?
Exactly.
And I think as entrepreneurs, to your point, we're wired different. And it's why we only make up about 15% of the population, because we do it to ourselves. It's hard. This is not an easy game that we play. And if you don't focus on your mindset, which is, in my opinion, 90% of your success, anybody can go learn anything on YouTube or Google these days, you will fail. You're going to crash and burn, and it's going to require building up. If you focus on yourself, it makes life so much easier and more enjoyable too, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the other big piece to get when with the thing about the ego and all that stuff, like the big thing to get is like, what is the purpose of life? Like, why are we actually here? I think it's a great question to ask yourself and think about, right? Is the purpose to like to build a great business and achieve a certain level of success, or like have a family and kids and have the perfect family and like everything's great there? Or like, is the purpose to get your body to a certain place? Like, what is the purpose? And I would argue that the purpose of life is to reveal where we're still stuck, is to present us with things that makes us realize, oh, I'm still stuck in a mind bug here. I still have this mind bug. I'm still believing in this lie, so that we can become free. It's like our nature is spirit, is consciousness, is light, life itself. Like it's just pure, that pure energy. That's who we are at our core. And all the other stuff is just what's in the way. It's just all the lies, all the bullshit, all the mind bugs that are in the way of that. And so really the purpose of life is to peel away those layers, to reveal who you truly are. And I believe that we come into this world for that reason. Like we literally curate the experiences that will install the mind bugs so that we can then overcome them by realizing that they're lies.
Fascinating. That's
the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the whole game, right? Because then like all the other shit, the business and the family, all that stuff, they're awesome, but they're just the surface stuff. They're the drama of life. And if you're focusing on that, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah. You brought up limiting beliefs. I was at an event once talking to another very successful business owner about, our goal of hitting 1,000 clients, right? And it's like, that sounds great, but what's it going to take to hit 100,000? And it just totally stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, I hadn't even considered that was even an option, right?
Yeah.
What do you like? How do you help people even consider those limiting beliefs that they put on themselves? Because a goal is a number, but what if your potential is so much bigger than that goal and you just don't even recognize it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love it. And I love those kinds of ways of thinking, like, 10x it, 100x it, 1000x it. Like, what would that feel like? Because it blows through some of those limitations that we self-impose. I don't think there is any limitation to what we can do and what we can like create in this life. And so I love those exercises. And again, what is your potential? Your potential is just to be free, to be who you are, and then create from that. And then the who you are being pure awareness, spirit, love, light, right? Create from that and just express yourself. It's like, why do kids build Lego towers or, sing like when they're playing or whatever? Like they're just expressing their essence. Like, I think that's what we're here to do. And then we tend to use our imagination to project things that are not helpful. Like we'll use our imagination to imagine some future where we're going to be screwed because of like, I don't know, whatever, pick your poison, health issues, or your partner's going to leave you, or your kids are going to get in trouble, or you're going to run out of money, or like whatever. Like we use our imagination to create some scenario that we don't like. And then the other part of our brain looks at that and he's like, oh my God, that's terrible. And then we get stressed. So we cause that stress for ourselves. Or we like imagine something like, oh, getting 1,000 clients. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, what if I imagined 100,000 clients? Like, what would that feel like? And I think we're given this imagination for a reason. It's part of our God-given gifts. Like use it, but use it to imagine something amazing. And then like use your hands and your arms and your legs to make it real. But again, it's not like, oh, the bigger thing I create, the more successful I am, the more I lived up to my potential. I think the living up to your potential is really in peeling away the layers that are not you, the mind bugs. And then from that place, like you just create whatever you create. And it's like, there's nowhere to get to in terms of like the outer, the material, the accomplishments. Like we do that for fun, but not as a measuring stick.
When you talk about peeling away the onion, I think a lot of people, to your point, get scared, right? Because they don't know what's necessarily under each layer. And they're like, all right, well, I'm pretty content where I'm at now.
Oh, yeah.
And the one question that I recall asking myself for the first time almost in my entire life And it wasn't until I hit a certain level of entrepreneurship where I'm like, I have the privilege to ask myself this question, because I feel like not many people do, but it's what do I want? Like, what do I actually want to do? What do I want to get out of life? Right. And that's a scary, hard question to answer. And I don't think many people ask themselves that.
Yeah, no, it's super scary. I had that moment. It was like in 2008 where I was terrified of looking there. I was really scared of asking that question, because like, what if there's nothing that I like that I really wanted, right? Or what if what I wanted wasn't something I wanted? Like weird. Our brain does that. Or like, I had this thing like I was terrified that I was going to be like this softy healer type, because that was the last thing I ever wanted to be on this planet. And then like, lo and behold, here we go. Here I am, right? Like, and I love it. But that version of me was terrified of that for a reason, right? I disowned that part of myself for a reason. So of course I was scared that I was going to find that was actually what was hiding and waiting for me. But it doesn't get better by just pushing it away and hoping and pretending, right? Like asking the question of like, what do I want? Who am I? What am I here to give? What am I here to do? What am I here to become? Like, that's a very important question to ask. And it's natural to be scared of it.
Yeah. Super powerful stuff, man. If you had to yell out to any entrepreneurs listening in who might be struggling in their business, and again, they don't have time to focus on themselves because they're too busy focusing on their team, their growth goals, creating enough revenue to feed their family or, pay the bills. If you had to just yell something from the rooftop that you wish all of them could hear, like what would that one thing be?
It's just a fucking mind bug. That's what I would say. It's just a fucking mind bug. Whatever it is that you think your problem is, whatever you're struggling with, it's just a mind bug. What we do is we try to fix it out there. Or I got to fix a team member, or hire the right person, or fix this process, or make some more money. We try to fix it out there, but everything out there is a projection of what's in here. And every time there's any kind of stress, any kind of resistance of what is, it's just a lie that you're believing. And the sooner you find out what that lie is, the sooner you're free. Any time and energy that you spend trying to fix it out there is completely useless. Completely useless. 100%, 1,000% useless. And the reason why is because even if you manage to fix it, you're not fixing the underlying pattern in you that created it. And so it'll just show up again in a bigger form, in a different form.
Man, it's so inspiring. I think a lot of entrepreneurs can benefit from just taking the times to work on themselves. I know I follow a lot of other fantastic, inspirational business owners like Dan Martell. You mentioned Tony Robbins. I've been to a number of his events, right? And it's so powerful when you start to take the time, the dedicated time. And we're not talking about hours. We're talking about days, weeks, months, years. But it compounds over time, where you look back at the person that you started out with, a year or two later, and you're like, that guy's dead. Like, I don't even recognize that guy anymore, right? So powerful.
I like to kill people, actually. We kill the small version, kill the false stuff. Yeah.
All right. So, Calvin, if somebody was interested in chatting with you, they're struggling in the entrepreneur world. They want to elevate themselves to that next level. They want to peel back some layers of the onion. How would they go about getting a hold of you?
Hit me up on Instagram. That's the easiest place. Go find me, full name on Instagram at Calvin Correli. Just let me know that you came from Austin and from the Base Coat Brainiac podcast. And if you want to share something that stood out to you, that you're like, hey, this really resonated, I love hearing that, and just chat me, follow me there, and then send me a DM and we'll chat.
Calvin, I appreciate you being on here and your time today. I hope everybody found some value listening in. Calvin, stick around. I want to get some feedback from you before we bounce for today. Thanks again, brother.
Cool. All right. Thank you, man. It's great to be here.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on that episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that chat as much as I did. Now, listen, if you guys are hungry for more conversations like this, go swing by our website. It's basecoatmarketing.com/podcast. And finally, we are very open to feedback. So if we haven't covered a topic or there's someone you want us to chat with, please let us know. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next conversation for painters.